It's political napalm time. It is the political napalm news blast. We've got a lot of topics to cover because I haven't done a video in a while. So let's get into it. Now, I haven't done a while in a bit because I haven't done anything in a bit because there's just been so much chaotic news lately with Hamas and Israel and Palestine and everything that is happening here in the United States, that every time you go to want to sit down and cover things and formulate an opinion and do a video on them, it's almost out of the news cycle already. And lately sort of been more hedonistic in that I'm spending my time on me and haven't done my political content in a while. But there's just been some really interesting things happening this week, things that I really want to cover. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing that we want to talk about is Jenna Ellis has decided to plead guilty in a court of law for the Georgia RICO case. Now, she has already pled guilty out in Colorado when it came time for her to be censured for the Bar Association and everything. Now we've got her pleading out within Georgia for the Fonnie Willis RICO case. Now this one has a lot of ramifications because she fundraised on Twitter. A fundraising account got started for her. It raised over or around $200,000, maybe it was like 216 or something like that. And it was her legal defense fund. Unless she took all of that money and spent it on getting a lawyer who said, "Girl, you're guilty as hell, plead out," then what is she doing with this legal defense fund money? It is exactly like what happened with Trump in 2020 when he lost the election and he did the Stop the Steal fundraising. And at least in the fine print with Trump, it clearly said 80% of the funds raised were going to his pocket. Only 20% was going to the Stop the Steal legal defense fund. In Jenna's case, she just fundraised, and now what's happening with the money? Because she's not fighting this, she pled guilty. Now, there's two problems just for Jenna and Sidney Powell in their pleas that they've done lately. The problems with these two ladies is the fact that they have pled out, but then continued to post and act in a way that is accordance with who they were prior to these plea deals. Now, Jenna, here's the thing. For Jenna, among the right wing, they think she is continuing to say the election was stolen and rigged and all that stuff. That is actually not happening after the Georgia plea deal. This was a little bit of misinformation that was going around because it happened based on her Colorado one, which was back in March, I believe. She is not posting these same things saying that she's coerced and stuff like that after this week's plea deal. Also, I want people to understand this, and this is what people are not getting in the MAGA sphere when it comes to their news. When you plea out and testify in court under oath that you have not been coerced. It is essentially the equivalent of going up to the airport, going through security, and when they say, "Has anybody touched your bags other than you?" or "Has anybody packed your bags other than you?" and you say no, you are saying the truth at that point in time. So when the Colorado thing happened and she continued to post election stealing stuff and say that she was coerced and everything, that was a lie in public because she cannot have been coerced Otherwise, she cannot take the plea deal truthfully. But let's listen to what she said in court this week.
I did not do but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges.
So, on the whole, what Jenna was saying in court this week is that she was an underling. She was not necessarily pushing the stuff because she was doing the research. She was saying, I was young, dumb, a junior, and I was following the lead of well-established lawyers and known figures above me. They were saying the things. I was going out and getting the coffee of those things, is basically what she's saying. She was the runner. And that's not exactly necessarily true. She was umbilical cord. She was hip to hip with Rudy the whole time. She caught COVID from one of his farts in court. She was there when the hair dye was dripping down the side of his head. Rudy Giuliani is a ridiculous embarrassment to my home state of New York. It is disgusting that he was ever called America's mayor at this point after 9/11. And, you know, the really sad thing is back then we believed it. We believed that, like, first home Yankee game after 9/11 happened and the rebuilding of New York City after 9/11 happened, and how for Rudy that was sort of like his the wars for Bush and everything, both Bushes. It's just really, really sad the depths to which Rudy has fallen into and the heights that he has fallen from. But Jenna is really trying to say, yeah, I'm pleading out. I'm stupid. I shouldn't have done these things. I should have fact-checked them. She essentially says that almost word for word as to how I'm putting it. I should have done the fact-checking. I should have done my due diligence. I accept the court's punishment. I accept what happened in Colorado at the beginning of the year. I should have done better. I didn't. Now, here's the thing. This is considered a flip. She has now gone over and will be turning state's evidence and will be working as a witness for the rest of the members of this case. And she joins Kenneth Chesbrough, Sidney Powell, the fake electors. So the list goes on. Does this eventually go all the way to the top and lead to Trump, where somebody like Jenna will be called on to go after Trump and turn as a witness against Trump? This is where I honestly believe things could be a little bit dicey, and I haven't really heard of people talking about it this way yet, but it's something that I see as a big potential. This might actually be a situation in where Trump skates a bit, banking on his stupidity. It's sort of an hourglass on its side pinch. You've got Jenna Ellis on the right side of the pinch. You've got Trump on the left side. And you have the Rudy Giuliani types in the middle in the pinch. Let me explain what I'm talking about with this little pincer maneuver here. Jenna's saying up the chain is where the garbage was. That's where the trash was. That's where the lying was. The people above her, the respected, well-known lawmakers and figures, essentially Rudy. She's pointing up to Rudy. I think Trump could make a case for himself where he points down at Rudy and says, well, I wasn't the one going out and getting the data. I wasn't doing the research. I'm too stupid to be on the net. I don't even know my wife's name when I'm typing it on my insecure iPhone, posting tweets in an insecure manner from inside the White House, lock her up and butt her emails. I'm doing way worse. by being on my iPhone and posting tweets and stuff like that. I think conceivably Jenna can point up, Trump can point down, and the onus or the burden of this case then falls upon the Rudys. I don't know if Rudy can flip up. Jenna's flipping up. Sydney flipped. I don't necessarily know if that would be up. Chesbro likely flipped up. There's a lot of pressure on Rudy right now. There's always been a rumor that Rudy has some stuff on Trump, some compromat. I don't know if it's as bad as like the infamous P tapes and everything like that. Probably not. But it's always been said that Rudy has something on Trump, and it could be maybe all the favors Trump did when they had New York dealings, and, you know, maybe shuffling some paperwork to get a Trump building built or some regulations relaxed somewhere. I don't know that Rudy has the power to flip now, thereby putting it on Trump, because I believe, and Trump is dumb enough for this to actually be a thing people would believe. He could say, well, I was being told by X, Y, and Z, we found these dead peoples. We found 120% voting rates over here. Pennsylvania, more people voted than are registered in the state. And I wonder if he could get away with it. It's going to rely on people testifying that the people right below him, the Rudys and everything, openly admitted what they were saying was crap, was lying, trashy crap. And Trump was going, well, let's get it out there anyway. Like Rudy said, we have a lot of theories. We don't have a lot of evidence. So I wonder if this is going to pinch at the Rudy level with Trump pointing the fingers down, Jenna pointing up, and by Jenna saying, well, I was just the coffee runner to Rudy, and Trump was saying, well, I was believing in what Rudy was saying because Rudy was the one whose job was to do the research. I believed him. I believed the election was stolen with 2 L's, like he's been saying, because he's been telling me that that's true. I think it's going to come down to the people who said to Trump, the level-headed people, Team Normal, like, dude, no. What Rudy is telling you is idiotic and stupid and fake, and if you believe him, you're an idiot. You have lost. Get out of the White House. He's does not have truth on his side. That's really where this is going to come down to. So it's going to be interesting whether the pinch is at Rudy or Rudy feels enough heat from Jenna and Sydney and Chesbro and all these other people flipping that Rudy flips and then points it up to Trump. But I think Rudy's still going to suffer a lot. So that's one of the pieces of news is what Jenna did in court this week. On to the feckless, idiotic MAGA Republicans. They've not had a Speaker of the House for a while after Getz was like, you know what? Vote of no confidence on McCarthy. And then the votes went through and McCarthy got ousted. This was part of the deal that McCarthy entered into when he squeaked by earlier in the year. And they were like, well, we could vote you out at the drop of a hat if you don't do what we want. Well, the Freedom Caucus crappers did that, and the House has been without a speaker for a while. Jim Jordan was a front runner for a bit, and of course, there's tons of controversy and skeletons in Jim's closet. So now we have Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Here's some of what Mike Johnson has done in his time. He has rejected the notion that Joe Biden has won legitimately, so that's one of his problems. He's an election denier who was against the certification of the Electoral College votes in one or more states. He's a co-sponsor of at least 3 bills that would ban abortion nationwide. He argued that if women just gave birth to more able-bodied workers, Republicans wouldn't have to try cutting Social Security. So this is that baby factory thing that people point to when they talk about Republicans, is that Republicans want baby factories. And George Carlin called this out years ago. George Carlin is a rampaging Democrat, and people sometimes think, oh, he was old and crotchety, he must have been a Republican. No. George Carlin was very much liberal minded, and he called out the Republicans decades ago when they were like, oh, you care about the babies right after they're born? No, you don't. You're not supporting food stamps. You're not supporting any kind of school programs and free lunches and everything like that. You don't do anything once the baby is born. It's all just hooting and hollering and preening and primping when somebody is pregnant. But then once the baby drops, it's discarded until it can be a soldier. He's right. George Carlin was right. I think that was in the 80s that he called that out, maybe even the late 70s. But go see that routine, because 20 some odd years ago, 30 some odd years ago, he's actually calling out 2020's Republicans. So he voted against the January 6th commission. He supports Putin with his opposition to Ukraine, opposes same-sex marriage, says climate change is a hoax. And he is also a Republican in a Biden-winning district. He needs to be replaced. Absolutely. Now, here is, I don't know what it is with how classless Republicans have been over the last few years. You have like Kat Dennings doing that stupid dance. You have Brenda Guilfoyle with the ridiculously Housewives of Beverly Hills lips and the droopy cleavage on her show. And she's just gotten more and more outrageous and more ugly in her appearance and her soul. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene with a viral video saying Joe Biden is a piece of shit, and in her Cruella de Vil outfit, hooting and hollering at a presidential speech, screaming out liar along with Boebert. All of her dalliances with her divorce and everything that's going on in her life. Boebert, we've talked about Boebert before. What she did in that theater was truly a class act, especially with children being in attendance, and they're so upset about drag shows that parents willingly take their kids to, meaning parents are part of the decision-making process on that. Kids are not walking through the mall by themselves and encountering a drag show and being corrupted. The parents are bringing the kids with them. So they're so concerned about the kids, and then Boebert is just giving a bit of a tug and a rub there in the Beetlejuice play in Colorado. Republicans have had some of just the grossest displays of humanity in the last few years. So Johnson had this conference, and a reporter asked him, do you support Israel aid? And they've just basically told him, you've asked your question, go away. Listen to this.
You've asked your question.
You asked your question, go away.
We're not doing policy tonight. Any other questions?
So that is Virginia Fox over there of North Carolina, the state I'm in. Just an absolute old boomer Karen embarrassment in her attitude on this. And just, you could tell she clearly feels backed up with the people around her. She is acting this way because she knows she has the support of everybody back here laughing and jawing with her. I don't know that she would do this on her own. It was actually rumored that she waited to meet Obama when he was elected to get an autograph or signature by him. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a hell of a villain turn to go from that to this. But this is where Virginia Fox, actually it's not that one. I've got the wrong one over here. In one of these, this caucus over here says to Johnson, do you believe Biden did actually win in 2020? In other words, are you being an election denier? And Boebert, first of all, Johnson makes a face, and then Boebert makes a face and starts to say things, and Virginia Fox just yells, "Oh, shut up twice." I'm gonna go find it. So I found the clip that I was looking for. I found the other clip twice by mistake. This is the one that really puts into perspective this entire idiotic, feckless, low-class, disrespecting piles of trash standing behind Johnson over here. Listen to this exchange and tell me this is how members of Congress should act. And it's how members of Congress should act when there is just a continued assault on decorum coming from Republicans lately, with what Marjorie Taylor Greene does and what Boebert does and what Getz does and Jim Jordan and all these guys. Yes, you know, you go back years ago, Pelosi ripped up the speech. I get it. You're going to point to that. You're going to be like, well, what was that? And I will sit here and say, yeah, actually, that is a little bit of low class there. However, there wasn't a continued trend of that stuff when Trump was the president. You didn't see that on the daily, on the regular. You didn't constantly see in the media, in the news, Democrats just completely acting trashless to reporters and everything like that. It was always coming from Trump. It was always coming from the right. And just this exchange right here is just so bad. And I would be ashamed to be any one of these people right here for this.
Johnson, you helped lead the efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Will you
Next question. Next question.
I mean, look at this idiot head over here. I mean, even if you just watch it on just a little bit of volume, I mean, you can see Boebert begins to react over here like, and this head movement, that craning over there, she's just, you could tell she's just looking around for support and looking for somebody else to be antagonistic to. This is just a disgrace. I mean, we've come to know this kind of stuff happens from Boebert and Getz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, but like, where did Virginia Fox come from all of a sudden with this trashy Karen crap over here? It's so disappointing to see people doing that. So moving on from there, Trump thinks that the Prime Minister of Turkey is Viktor Orban, who clearly is the Prime Minister of Hungary. So he's getting his fascist dictators screwed up. He messes around, and I can't imagine how Erdogan is taking this right now in Turkey. Like, oh, so Viktor Orban is the leader of Turkey now? Okay, yeah, but you know, let's talk about Biden's stumbles and everything like that when Trump gets this wrong, and he says it twice. It's not like he says it and then he corrects himself because he realizes that he has a word or a sentence stumble. He says it back to back. Just like when he was in Wilmington, North Carolina for a rally in 2022, and he was like, "Make America gay again," and he keeps calling Hamas hummus, basically. Yeah. So we'll leave you with this over here. When Trump has been going around saying now that, you know, Sydney was not really on my legal team, she was not a lawyer, blah blah blah. Here is his tweet from way back in 2020, where it says, "I look forward to meeting Mayor Giuliani and having him spearhead the legal effort to defend our right to free and fair elections, capitals, Rudy and Joseph de Genova and Viktor, I'm not even going to try, Viktor Tensing, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, truly great team, blah, blah, blah. Yes, Trump kicked Sidney Powell off the team once, but then brought her back. And that was when Sidney was going crazy with all the Kraken stuff, a.k.a. Phil Wardren. By the way, Phil Wardren never testified in open court. The Kraken was most likely Phil. Phil was who Sidney was pointing to in all of this. And the thing is, Phil never said anything in open court because he would be under oath and he would be perjuring himself. He was one of these people who went to like the Ballroom C at the Motel 6 for these hearings, but he never went anywhere where his words actually were held weight and had merit. Those meetings could have been a Flat Earther Society meeting. They had no weight whatsoever. All that talk about affidavits or after Davids, as Melissa Carone used to like to say, none of them carried weight because they were not official proceedings. Anybody could have gone to those meetings and said anything, but they never made it to courts of law and then held up and stood up to the pressure of being under oath and having to tell the truth, which is why you have things like Cyber Ninjas not going to the courts when being asked, and Doug disbanding Cyber Ninjas, and Phil Wardren never stepping into a courthouse, and why Sidney was considered absolutely batshit insane, saying that Trump was sending the military to get our voting data that was being held in Germany, and Seitel put it there, and that's where it was being manipulated, and the military is going to go get it. This is going to be very interesting, but I think Trump is going to be in a lot of trouble. I think Rudy is going to have to make a decision real soon, flip or be in the pinch. And I think everybody is going to wind up flipping all the way to the top, if not just leaving Trump and Rudy alone. So this is the Political Napalm signing off. Hope you enjoyed the video.